All of the food we eat and much of the clothing we wear comes from plants and animals that are raised on farms. Farms are different in type, in size, and even in name.
Welcome to Barn Talk. What happens at the barn stays in the barn, but not today. We're going to let it all out for you guys. Today is going to be a guest episode. We got a great guest located here in Iowa coming into the barn. We're going to have a good conversation, touch on a number of topics. But before we get into it, you guys know the drill. Share the show with those that you know. The more that you guys do that, the more that this show grows. Best way to grow a podcast, in our opinion, what we're finding is word of mouth. So thank you to all of you that do share the show, and you can get value in a number of ways. We can make you laugh. We can make you relate on something. We can, what other ways can we?
Make you cry.
We can make you cry. I hope we don't make you cry, but we can. We might. But those are all ways we provide value, and if you do get anything, just share it. That's all that we ask. If you want to help out Barn Talk in another way, you can also leave a review on Spotify or Apple. That is the best way to give our show a lot of credibility. If you look around in the podcast landscape, it's really hard to see what shows are popular or what not besides the reviews. The reviews are kind of the number one thing that shows how good a show actually is. So with you guys leaving reviews, helps us out in a big way there. Hopefully we can land some better guests, bigger guests, the more reviews that we rack up. So thank you to all that do that. And we also love hearing from you guys too. So that's nice to hear your reviews and see what you have to say. So last thing you can do to support Barn Talk and to support us is support our direct-to-consumer meat business we started 11 months ago called Farmer Grade. We are gearing up for Father's Day sale. We're going to have a 20% off the whole site for Father's Day, and it's only going to last Friday through Sunday. So only going to last up till Sunday, and it's going to end Monday morning. So if you want to get something for your dad and grill out with your dad, take advantage of our Father's Day sale, you head over to farmergrade.com this weekend and snag something pretty you can throw on the smoker.
Absolutely.
Your dad's going to love it. I can attest to that.
There's nothing dads love more than good barbecue.
Good meat. Good meat. Yep. We got that. Got that in spades.
Farmer Grade.
Yeah, nice hat. Dad, you know what's so funny? You never think this, but Dad is kind of the creative genius when it comes to all our merch. You know, I don't spend near enough time thinking up all the t-shirt ideas. That's kind of Dad's realm, and he's jonesing to get merch made. So he made those awesome hats that he's repping today.
I do like to market. I am a marketer.
You know, I love those hats, but I just think those hats don't fit my fucking fat head very well. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I don't remember ever dropping you on your head.
I don't know. For some reason, I just look funny in those hats. Those style hats. Well, that's why I always am repping this Carhartt hat, because it just fits my hat well, or fits my head well.
This is the Richardson style.
Yeah.
This is the Richardson knockoff. The original This'll Do hats are Richardsons, but these are the I don't know.
Torque Special.
I don't know. Flex Fit 110s. I couldn't get Richardsons. And you know what? Richardsons, they're not made in America. They pimp themselves out like everything they sell is like made in America or whatever, but those hats aren't. They are a nice hat though. And these aren't made in America either, because couldn't find any. But anyway, I like them. Soon to be available on the store if we ever get that up and going. It's one more thing we're working on. But I digress. Today, we got a great show. It's a kinder, gentler show. There won't be any yelling or screaming. Well, I don't think there's going to be any yelling or screaming. Our guest today, she has a pretty big following on Instagram and TikTok, and her channel is calming and soothing, and it has a look to it that's very disarming. Not like when Sawyer goes on an epic rant. There'll be none of that today. We're gonna explore a lot of great topics, and
I'll try my best.
Yeah, he's gonna do his best.
It won't be like last episode. It won't be like that. I can promise you that.
Well, if she doesn't agree with you on anything, try not to make her cry. All right?
I won't do that.
I think
she's tough-skinned. Yeah,
she can hold her own.
Yeah. She's an Iowan girl. She can do it. Yeah, she can take the punishment for sure.
So without any further ado, let's get into it.
We're live here. So Joy Van Wyngarden, welcome to Barn Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, you're a fellow Iowan girl, so I don't think you had to travel too far, did you?
No,
Nope.
it was about, I think it was like an hour 15.
That's not the case for some of the guests that we've had,
No, like Jesse,
Jesse, what was that? Oregon? Washington?
Utah.
No, it was Washington.
Oh, was it Washington?
He's not from Utah.
I always
Did
think
they
you can't
come
keep
all
it straight.
The way here just
he
for podcasts?
literally flew
Flew.
into Cedar Rapids, came down, shot it, and flew back.
Oh my gosh.
Couldn't believe
I know, it was
Stand-up
great
guy.
guy.
Aim to be that bougie someday.
I know, right? Just call my
was it
jet.
on his plane or was it?
No,
I
he
don't
doesn't-
think so.
He's got hay semis, but he doesn't have a hay jet yet.
Oh.
He hasn't. If he can figure out a way to compress that hay enough that he can put it in a plane, he probably will have one, but not
In the
quite yet.
making.
Well, so start it off. Why don't you just let people know where they can find you and what you're doing and what you're all about?
So I'm on social of Instagram and TikTok, unfortunately. Joy of All Trades is my handle for both of them. That's mostly where I do a lot of my posting. I'm trying to kind of start up a YouTube channel, but it's one of the back burner things. It takes a lot of work and it's a lot of time. And I have all the ideas up here and I have them all on paper, but it's just actually getting out and making videos on it. So, but Joy of All Trades, that's my handle.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And you are. Your content is pretty diverse.
And that's where I felt like I wanted a name that reflected it, because originally it was just my name back when I was had social media, because that's what kids do. We have social media. I just have my name. Then I'm like, no one even knows how to say my last name. No one knows how to pronounce it. Like, it's not significant in any manner. I was like, but my first name's kind of fun. Like, it's a real word. It's in the dictionary. Like, I should find a play on words to work with. And I think, I just post a lot of different things. So I'm like, why not do Joy of All Trades? Just let people know that, like, if you're coming to this page, you're going to get a little bit of everything, and you're probably going to get everything that you don't know that you don't need. So just prepare for it.
Yeah, I think that's what I like a lot about your page is your brand is just you. And I think it's really, like, I admire that about you, and the fact that it's really hard for people to build social media followings around multiple things. Like, they can't really build it around themselves. They have to, like, niche down. And you're really good at doing everything that's you, and people come to follow you, not just like what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The authenticity.
Like us, it's like people come to Barn Talk for mostly farming, but we're kind of getting into other topics as well. But they know us as farmers, and
Right.
like that's
That's
kind of
the
what
hat that you wear.
That's the hat that we wear.
Yeah.
But the people that can do what you're doing, that's really hard. So I really admire what you do on your
Talent.
page. Yeah, it is.
I
No,
think of
it
hard.
is.
I just think of it as being myself.
Yeah, no, that's cool though.
That's what makes it so seamless, though.
Yeah.
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 But
No.
that's what brands are. Like,
That, for
personal
sure.
branding is just, you are the only you that exists
Yeah.
on the planet. You're probably really weird and quirky if you would just allow the world to see that. So just capitalize on it.
And that's like the thing about personal branding. I feel like when just looking, it was like most of the time it takes people for their personal brand. They have to niche down in the beginning, and then as they get bigger, then they start to like piece it out a little more. But like I said with you, it's like I just feel like you've just been you from the beginning, and it's just really worked for you, which is cool.
It's just been fun.
It's awesome.
And I have a bunch of stupid ideas on the docket, so stay tuned.
Yeah. So kind of give us the lowdown or the background on kind of what made you want to do it, and like what your aim of why you're doing it, you know?
I think, like, probably maybe similar to you guys, around the COVID era, it was kind of an accident because TikTok became a thing, and I was in college at Iowa State, and, the world shuts down, especially in a town like Ames. And I was thinking this app was really stupid. I'm like, someone's trying to recreate Vine, and it's not going to work, and it's really stupid. And then I got on it and had to bite my own tongue. And I started making videos, and I was like, well, I can make stuff that's funnier than what was coming up on my feed. So I just started making things. And then one day you wake up and, it's like, oh my gosh, 1 million people watched that video last night. And it kind of just went from there, where I just started making content that was me, or stuff that I thought was funny or relatable. There's a lot of things that I make that are just relatable to the Midwest life, or growing up in the country, being a farm girl, being an Iowan, farmer wave, that kind of stuff. And that really seemed to do well. Trajectory wise, I don't know. I have a lot of different ideas for that. That's why I'm like hesitant to say anything, because
You're not set on anything.
I haven't quite decided what direction fully I want to go, but that's why I'm just kind of writing it out and seeing what opportunities arise and what happens. But I have some ideas. Like you said earlier, though, or before we even were on air, branding and like coming up with a business idea and then letting your social media help you grow that. That's definitely something I want to do. So it's just about kind of figuring out which one I want to go with and figuring out some just business details along the way. But yeah, I have a few ideas where I'm like, I think I could do this.
Yeah, you got a lot of directions that you can pick from, so that's good.
It's just, it's exciting, but then it's overwhelming, and you realize you can't do it all, even if you want to.
Right.
So.
Right.
Are you thinking of bagging your own? You're gonna have your own face on a bag of cover crop.
Oh,
and sell as your own.
That
brand.
actually wasn't on the list, but I'll be thinking about it on the drive home now. I don't know. I'd have to have some really fun branding with. There's no cover crop that starts with a J though, so I don't know if that'll work, but. It's not a bad idea. I do like the Iowa cover crop people. I'm a big fan of their stuff, and they're on social a lot more now. They're doing more of that kind of stuff, so I'm very pro what they're doing over there. They're not too far from here. Are they Jefferson, Iowa?
Jefferson County.
Yeah, Jefferson
That's
County.
Fairfield. Yeah, so they're pretty close. It's 20 miles. So
yeah, they're not too far. Yeah.
We're eventually gonna separate all our manure, and we're gonna have like dry. I want to bag it and put my face on it, put my face on the bag. Just say Torque's full of shit. Here, have a bag.
I mean, I've seen worse brandings.
I know. There really is. Like, you go to a garden center, there's no like brand of manure for or compost or whatever.
That's really interesting.
I know.
Someone should capitalize on that.
I know, that's what we say. But then I'm like, I think that, and then I'm like, nope.
You're giving away too many of our ideas.
Well, I think we're kind of maxed.
Yeah, our time is maxed.
Might be like, really? Can we not let someone else do that?
Yeah, right. Where we're at right now, we'll let somebody else do it.
We've got enough. Somebody else can do that.
But maybe in the future, we can do it. I don't know.
I like it, though.
Yeah. Okay, so you're in farming. You're kind of in farming a little bit. So you're in the conservation, cover crops. Like, what's your background on ag and farming in general? Like, farm girl, come from a farm family. Tell people how you were involved in agriculture.
I feel like kind of like everyone else, grew up on a farm, parents farm, grandparents farm, cousins farm, everyone farms, but just row crop. Didn't grow up with livestock, and I just kind of fell into conservation, if that makes sense. I took ag in high school, and you just grow up a farm kid, so a certain degree of things. And I remember having a conversation with my dad in high school where I had heard about cover crops, or we learned about it in ag class or something. And then I came home and I was talking to my dad about it. I'm like, cover crops, like, why don't we do those? Or, what are your thoughts? And he was like, oh, they don't work. It's, too dry, dries out the ground. They just don't work. And it was like, at that point in life, you just take your dad's word for granted, or for the Bible, for the truth, right? And you're like, okay, well, cover crops don't work. I guess they just don't. And then I went to college, Iowa State, for agriculture and communications, and learned more about conservation and just the importance of soil conservation, the importance of water quality, a lot of the issues that we face here in the Midwest and Iowa a lot. And I kind of just fell in love with it. And then I realized that there's not a lot of people out there talking about it. There's more people talking about conventional farming. There's more people talking about other issues in ag. But it didn't seem like there was a ton of people bringing up the topics of erosion and water quality and the Dust Bowl, which really wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And I just became passionate about it.
So, you got any facts or points that you could rattle off, like, at the top of your head about it?
Oh, like stats.
Like, if you want to know if people want to know the most important things about cover crops, like...
I mean, in general, cover crops are used as an erosion tool, right? We're trying to keep the soil in place. We're not trying to lose our moneymaker. They're helping build organic matter. They're helping build healthy soils because they're feeding your soil biology. A lot of the connection between soil health and biology is what's happening between the plants that are growing and between the grubs that are underground. And there's so much information that's always coming out about that. There's so many studies that universities are doing and trials are showing that, like, there is a much more complicated connection between the soil biology and the health of your plants. I can't think of the podcast name. I want to say it's the Regenerative Agriculture podcast. He's a Mennonite guy from over, I want to say in Pennsylvania, John Kempf, maybe. Genius guy, agronomist, and he's been taking a very deep dive into plant health and the relationship between the soil. And it's just mind-boggling. Like when I listen to his podcast, I have a girl brain, so like if I'm driving and listening to a podcast, sometimes I have to like stop and like digest information. So I'm like constantly pausing that one and just being like, wait, what the heck did he say? Because he has a very different outlook on agronomy and plant health as opposed to what I would say conventional agronomists here in the Midwest have currently. And it's just essentially building the health of the soil to allow the plant's immune system to fight off things. So if we go out and we crop scout here and we see some kind of blight, we see some kind of worm, beetle, whatever, we typically just we spray the crop, right? And we think that's going to kill the pest. But he takes an absolute approach of what part of the plant's immune system was dysfunctioning and what can we do to repair that? Similar to human beings, right? If you get sick, Sawyer, and we just give you some medicine, you get better. Did we really take care of what the true issue was? Or like your immune system is at the root of like, why'd you get sick in the first place? And he just takes a completely different approach, which I'm sure some people would find very hippie and holistic for like the farming community, but he's so darn smart. And I think it's going to be the future, and I think it's going to be one of those things where 50 years from now we look back on it and we were like, we totally got duped by the co-ops. Like we totally got duped by big ag and all the herbicide and all the things that we're mining over in China that we are literally reliant on to do our jobs. And yeah, I find that stuff fascinating.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I think for us, it's like most farmers, I think they want to do right by their soil because obviously we want to pass it on, we want it to stay healthy. We don't want another dust bowl, right? But the hardest thing is money, yield. Yield is the biggest thing for farmers. If they're not making money, they can't stay in business. Therefore, they can't have that ground. So it's just fighting that battle of doing right by the soil and doing what's right for the next generation, but also we got to pay the bills too. Yeah. And I think there's a happy medium there, for each operation of doing regenerative ag or doing conservation tactics or methods that help the ground, but also making a profit too. So we just got to try to find that middle ground.
So did you sell your dad, or did your dad come around to the idea of cover crops? Because
he's still coming around to the idea.
Still coming around.
He's kind of like us.
It's been a little bit of a knockdown drag out between us. It's like, every family has that conversation topic that you don't address over food, and that's become ours. So, but he's baby boomer generation. It's just so different, and it's such a big management shift, not only a management shift on the ground, but I would say like a management shift in your mind that he's open to it, but he's not fully
there
dove in yet. Yeah.
There's a lot worse things that you could fight at the dinner table about.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We're at the same page with most everything else in our life, except that. So it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. He'll come around. You just got to keep pounding the stone. That's what I do with you. That's
what I do with him.
Relentless. Just
he'll come around, or a 2x4 will come around.
Right. Yeah. So do you help farm at all out on the farm, or do you what do you do? Like, what's your day job, I guess? And are you involved in the operation at all?
I am quite literally, when it comes to my day job now, I am the joy of all trades. Like my every day looks different. I'm doing different things every day. I'm editing on my computer. I'm working from home. Like yesterday we were out doing hay. It just depends on the time of year and the day. I don't do a ton per se though, because we don't have hog barns that we're choring, things like that. I don't have cattle that I'm taking care of. So just row crop stuff. Yeah. But every day is different, and I love it.
We could get you a few pigs.
Yeah? What kind? What kind do you guys raise?
We got Duroc. We got some Duroc.
I want to get some Mangalese.
Some ham.
There we go. Everybody wants the furry pigs.
Dude, but I've heard that they marble really well, and that part intrigues me. I want to try one. I have a friend who's raising some, and I told him, I said, because they had a litter and they had some piglets, and I was like, when you get those things full grown, you call me, because I want to try it, because I've heard it's really good. Have you guys tried it?
Never tried it.
Well, see,
I've heard all the good things.
We got to have it. We got to have it to 300 pounds in 162 days to make it work.
I know.
I don't think they'll make it.
But what if the market just one day tells it? Like, what if the people, the consumer market, if the consumers say, we want some marble on our hogs, you're going to say, okay.
Well, we're already headed that way. So the pork industry, made a really poor investment several decades ago where they really thought, I think that as an industry, we really thought that the world of proteins were going the way of chicken. And that was the biggest growth as far as market share was chicken. Mm-hmm. And everybody thought that all the cattle guys were going to be out of business. So the pork producers decided that we're going to make pork like chicken. We're going to make it real lean.
The second lean meat, or
it's
whatever
gonna
it
be,
was.
Yeah. What was it? The other white meat. That's
the other
what it
white
was.
meat.
The
That
other
was
white-
the big branding.
And that was a big mistake.
That was
because
dumb.
guess what? People still buy a steak because why do they buy the steak? Because it tastes really, really good. And it has fat in it.
Yeah.
And it did not work out well. And so for us, like the meat that we sell, one of the comments that we get from people is like they're curious what breed of pig they are and whether we feed them toasted almonds and rub them down with butter and do blah, blah, blah.
You sing to them at night.
And then we explain to them that this is the pig that the industry raises today. Like we raise them in confinement the way 99% of pigs are raised. It's just that, for one, we finish them maybe a little heavier than what a lot of them are, and we get them butchered the way we want them, but the genetics are the same. But the whole industry has figured out we've got to get that marbling back in the meat. So where even 3 or 4 years ago, if you went in our buildings, you would see nothing but white pigs. Very, very rarely you would see maybe a pig that was a little red. Today, when you go in there, you see...
It's a zoo.
You see hamp pigs, you see durocs, you see spots, because that side of those genetics are the ones that have the higher fat content in the meat, and they're figuring it out, which they needed to figure it out because when chicken is the price it is and beef is the price it is, which would you rather be selling against? The cheapest or the most expensive? I would rather market against beef. So
Let's be honest, lean pork kind of sucks.
it does. It does.
Doesn't taste great.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing. Think about 40 years ago, there wasn't a market for bacon. Bacon was squeezed into lard. Like you literally, they wanted the fat, and the meat was worth nothing.
Yeah, fed it to the chickens.
Yeah, and today that's that's crazy valuable. But pork butt, pork chops, bacon, that's what everybody wants. Pork loin, $1.49 a pound every week somewhere.
I like pork loin though.
It is if you do it right, but most people do not know
They dry
how
it
to
out.
cook it.
That's true.
And you got to be really careful with it because it will dry out really fast. So I made a pork loin like 3 weeks ago, and I took the smaller end that has the tenderloin in it, that strip of dark meat. So I took that because I cooked it, so I get the best. And Sawyer, he's the big dog, so I gave him the big end, and I gave his brother the middle, and I thought it was delicious. And Clay's like, boy, that was the best pork loin I've ever had. And then I asked Sawyer, and he goes,
That was dry
pretty dry.
as shit.
that was pretty dry.
That was dry.
And we were all like,
Thanks,
what are you
Dad.
talking about? It was fantastic. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I gave you the
I
really
was like,
lean
what?
end.
What is everybody raving about? That was not that good.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. Big time.
But yeah, I don't think I'm ready for the Magalistas yet. No.
I'm not gonna jump in.
I don't want to have to
Throw
brush
in
them
the
every day.
pasture. You could throw them in the pasture at the horse.
Oh,
Well, that'd be good video
yeah, there you go.
of those two coping with one another. I don't know who would win. It would be a battle of wills. Never underestimate the power of a pig, though.
Or a horse. Those two would
Yeah.
be stubborn.
That's why I refuse to have pigs someday. Like, unless I get the Mangalistas and I put them in their place. But no, pigs can be mean. Oh my gosh.
are
You only
mean.
have to get pushed around by a sow one too many times before you're like, okay.
Yeah, pig is they're a very independent-minded animal, and they have a thought. Should I be afraid of that? And then once they decide I'm not afraid of it, their second thought is, I wonder if I can eat that.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could eat that. So
That is 100%
that's pretty much
accurate.
their mindset.
That's true.
So, going back to your content, you do a lot of different things. But when I look at your content, I feel like you kind of represent this culture of young people today that see all the chaos and just how our world has shifted and are like looking around and going, well, this wasn't how it was back in the day. I'm going to sprint back to how kind of things were done in the past rather than going with the status quo that we've always gone with the last, 10, 20 years. Yeah. So you're like, I feel like you represent millennial and Gen Z's kids or young people that are just sprinting back to traditional values. Do you feel like that's kind of what you're kind of doing? I mean, I know you're into, I don't want to say holistic living, but like you are gardening, you are looking into ways to take care of your health and not just like saying, okay, let's go to the doctor for every problem that I have. Like you're valuing your health, you're valuing what you put in your body, like all those things. And I feel like a lot of young people are kind of thinking the same thing. And so, yeah, kind of what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like you might be included in that though too, just with some of your thoughts of like what you just said, like you're looking around, you're like, does no one else have a problem with what's going on right now?
Time.
Like it can't just be me. But sometimes I think, what is that phrase? Some of the smallest percent are like the loudest, like and I think that's what's happening right now with like the month of June, right? Like the small percent are speaking the loudest, and it's like, no, we can talk too. And I think there's just some absolute craziness in the world right now, and there's nothing wrong with talking out against it and saying this isn't right, I don't believe in this. I think a big turning point for me, because I don't think I've always been 100% that way. Like I was raised with very traditional like country homegrown values, but I think after I got off birth control, I think my brain just like switched. Had an epiphany or something. Like I'm very against that drug. I'm very against. My
fiance was the same way.
Oh
She,
a lot
if you look into the effects of birth control, it's like bad.
The side effect list is this long, and it's literally just so you don't get pregnant in high school.
Yeah.
That is literally what people are taking this evil drug for, and then it has this huge laundry list of effects that can last for the rest of your life. Like some people are quite literally infertile because they took a pill for a few years of their life, and that's really sad. I mean, shame on the industry for letting girls get on that without being fully aware of how it could affect their body later on in their life during the very important years of your life, like the best years of your life. But yeah, I think I just kind of had an epiphany, and my mind shift changes. My hair's like wavy now. That was new. And I kind of got sick of some of the shit that was being preached, and I'm like, no. And I would agree. There's a lot of people that reach out to me that say like, thank you about like posting something, which at first was kind of like, you're welcome. What do you mean? But they're just like, I agree with you. I'm so on board. I've been thinking this too. Like, I believe in what you're doing. And sometimes they're just the ones that aren't making the content. So when in a world where it feels like maybe you're the only person that believes something, that's so not the case. It is a small world, and there's plenty of people that think just like you do all across the world.
Yeah, no, that's honestly like, I didn't even know, like I started following you a while ago just because of that, because I was like, yeah, she's like this young woman that's like Midwest, and she's like kind of got this vibe about just like kind of fuck the system a little bit of just how everything that they've shoved down our throats,
I'm sick
and so
of it.
and so like there's a town close to where we live right now, or where we're at right now, like Kelowna. I know a lot of young people in Kelowna that are in their mid-20s, starting to have kids, either getting married or engaged or whatever, single, that, like a group of guys are getting together and they're sitting down for Friday coffee, having community, and they're all gardening and they're all canning and they're all
raising chickens,
and they're all
pigs.
Trying to talk each other into Mangalisa pigs.
And they're all learning how to butcher, and they're all going on runs together, and it's just like this culture of like.
And the other thing is that I think is awesome about what you do, and along with that, they're all learning skills. Like they're learning how to do stuff for themselves, because I'm an 80s kid and greatest generation ever. But
can't argue.
I'll give you that, because we can't say shit.
So I just had this conversation with Ryan Kelly last night, because when we were talking about, I don't even know what we were talking about on the podcast, but I brought up about sugar cereal when I was a kid, and this cereal that Target brings it back for Halloween. It's like Boo Berries, Frankenberry, Count Chocula, something else. But anyway, Ryan Kelly's like, yeah, 80s kids, we didn't, our parents were so tired. And I'm the youngest. I was the youngest of 3 boys. So I got away with murder. And all my friends were like the youngest of 3, 4, 5 kids, to where at that, the first child, keep tabs on them. The last one, you just check them to see if they have a pulse a couple times.
Over there, he'll be fine.
Yeah. So he was like, what I like to do was I like to take Boo Berry and then put Mountain Dew on it when I was watching cartoons on Saturday morning. Okay, we were not the generation of health,
We turned out okay, though.
That generation, I feel like that was kind of the tipping point of where we are in society today. And I've seen South Park does a bit on this, where you can't get anybody to come fix the handle on your oven. Like the guy wants $500 to fix the handle on this guy's oven, and he asks Siri how to fix the handle. And then Siri rattles all this stuff, and so then he asks Siri if she can do it for him because he doesn't know how to do it. But that was a time period where technology and innovation and all that, people just lost a lot of that mentality of doing it yourself, which was my dad's mentality, 100%, because he grew up, you had to fix it yourself, you had to do it yourself. But then I feel like we got a whole generation where, you just hire somebody for that. Mm-hmm. And if somebody tells you that there's an easier way to do it, if you can get fast food, or you can get it already made, put in a box. My mother, she was all about that. Like, she grew up.
I would say this is the thing about the 80s. It was the greatest because it was the last generation before the big social media tech boom.
Yeah.
But you guys also were the pioneers of consumerism.
Yes.
Like, it's just started in the 80s where it was like,
you could get anything.
You guys want TV dinners, Schwann's Man, all that shit was starting to come.
And we all
pop
thought
culture.
It was great, but now you look back and you're like, you let your kids eat this,
Kids eat what? You'd be better off eating the dirt.
But then the other side of it was the beginning of specialization, to the point that now we have a whole generation that don't know how to do shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about your content, is you getting out and doing stuff and learning how to do stuff. And that's like those guys that they're like,
we'll figure it
I want to
out.
learn how to butcher a pig. So they start doing it. And
I think what's cool about it is that movement and just kind of what you represent. I feel like that's what gives our generation or America hope. That, hey, we're not just going to keep staying inside and sitting on our phones forever. Like, hey, we've kind of grown up a little bit, and we look around and we're like, something's got to change. Mm-hmm. This ain't going right. This isn't going good. Like, we got to put ourselves first, our community first, learn some shit. And let's be honest, being on your phone and staying inside and being a constant consumer, that ain't good for you.
We're just slaves at that point. Yeah. And I think everyone needs some degree of empowerment. No, you can't figure this out. Whoever told you that you can't was wrong. YouTube has everything.
Yep.
You can figure it out on your own. And at the end of whatever you decide to do and you accomplish it, you will feel really good about yourself, because now you just added more tools to your own tool belt. And like you said, in a world of specialization, or what I would call siloing, there's just so much of that. You buy a brand new truck, you can't work on it anymore, right? Things have gotten so complicated, and I think it's by design. I think it's very intentional how siloed things have become, our healthcare industry included, where it's just you can do only what you can do, and the world will tell you, well, you can't do that. You can't figure that out. It's complicated, and you need
a specialist, and you need this pill to help you.
And it's that's not the mentality of our grandparents. No, I'll ffigure it out, and I might break things and waste some money in the process, but I'm having fun. I will figure it out. So.
Yep, 100%.
That's a great mindset. Yeah. What are some of the biggest changes that you, outside of birth control, like I know that was kind of your first start, but like what are some of the biggest changes you've made in your own life as you've gotten older that like kind of go away from the status quo and kind of are a little, maybe, I don't know, go back to the traditional values a little bit, I guess, that
or it's
kinda,
had a big impact.
Yeah, just had a big impact on you that might not be the norm.
I think after the whole getting off birth control thing, I just had my own realization that I'm going to have to be my own advocate for basically everything. Not to say you can't trust anyone, not saying that at all, because I have awesome people in my life, and a lot of them I really do trust, and I take their counsel for word. But just to look into things on your own. So many times we hear something and we just believe it. And now in the age of social media, a reel pops up on our phone and we start watching it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is that, or this is that, and this is true. And then how many people actually look into it on their own?
Mainstream media.
You just don't, right? Like you see some things and you believe it and then you adopt it. And that's where like the consumerism came into impact. It's like, well, it's so much easier to feed your kid Count Chocula or whatever. And it's like, well, what's actually in Count Chocula? How do they make it? Like, what is Red 40? Like all those things. And what are the long-term effects? My boyfriend and I were just looking at an article about solar panels, because there's almost a dark side to solar panels that a lot of people just see it and they say, oh, it's good and it's green and it's energy efficient and we love them. And there's gosh, I can't even think of his name now, but he has credentials. He's a scientist. He's worked for NASA. He's done all sorts of stuff. And he was explaining how they're basically heating up the earth quicker. So like all these giant fields of solar panels, like maybe they're not the best, or just the things that people don't think about. And by the time they do, it's probably too late and things have already kind of taken their dark turn. So I've just kind of adopted that mindset in my life where it's like, if you hear something, just look into it yourself. That doesn't mean you have to be belligerently disagreeing with everything you hear. But I don't like just taking things for
At face value.
Yeah. Like I'll look into it myself on my own time.
Yeah.
I'll listen to like 73 podcasts and I'll read a book or two and I'll brew on it for a year and then I'll make up my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not alone. I think a lot of people are that way. There's also a lot of people's faith in, well, I shouldn't say faith, but people's trust of
government, big pharma, big food, big meat, big anything.
Yeah, is
all-time low.
And it just keeps getting lower.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a great example, and I'm not for or against. Well, somebody would say I'm against because somebody in my family always tells me you need to wear sunscreen, and I don't do a very good job. And it's not because I don't. It's not because I wouldn't wear it. It's because I don't ever think about it when I head out the door. I'm going to go do this. I just don't.
Yeah.
But the Wall Street Journal does a story about sunscreen and about all of the misinformation about it being harmful. And I thought that was very interesting that the Wall Street Journal would do that, because to me, that's not like the kind of news that you would read the Wall Street Journal for. So I just started reading all the comments on it, and it was hilarious because so many of the comments were, by the way, Eli Lilly bought 33% of Wall Street stock, or of Wall Street Journal stock last week. Oh,
Banana boat.
What ad? Yeah. How many banana boat ads are running in the Wall Street Journal day? Like, there wasn't any comments that weren't, yeah, you're lying. Like, I would never get my information from the Wall Street Journal. And I think that's so interesting because we have this disconnect. You have a group of people that have built organizations such as that are totally bought into it, and all they do is talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And so you have that group of people, and they're just scratching their heads because they can't understand why all of these people over here look at them like they're the devil. And I just think it's so interesting because that's traditional media, that's traditional conglomerate food companies, you name all the things you listed. That's all they know, and that's all they associate with. So they're just like dumbfounded. Like they just can't understand it because they don't know anybody like you or me.
Well, I think they've always gotten away with it.
Right.
And now it's like,
There's always been some degree of trust.
well,
Yeah.
the consumer has always trusted them.
Yeah.
And
Face
now
value.
that's all going away, and they literally are in full-blown panic.
it's
because they don't
backfiring
know-
on everything.
They don't know what to do.
Because one thing comes out and then all of a sudden the consumers go, well, you were lying about this? You've been lying about this for 50, 60, 70 years? Like, what is going on here? And I have this conversation all the time with people. And typically I don't get people coming at me with like hate mail or anything like that. But if they do come at me for like raw milk or something like that, I'm just like, listen here, sugar. Like, I will show you.
You need to go.
Where you are wrong. And because we got duped big time. Like, but some people are so hell bent on dying on a hill of something that they don't know anything about. And that's what cracks me up. I think I made a raw milk reel. Oh, this has been a while ago, but something about it was funny or something because it blew up and it reached the section of the internet that is very much so like, you cannot be drinking raw milk. That is very unsafe. And I'm like, what were your grandparents drinking?
Yep.
What were they drinking? Like homogenization and pasteurization, when did that get implemented from the FDA side of things, like for the United States? Like they just knew absolutely nothing about like what milk compromises of and what the process of pasteurization and homogenization is even doing to the food that you're consuming. So it's just so funny though, because they were so mad at me for trying to educate or make joke or make fun about something like that. Like they were willing to die on that hill and they knew nothing about it. And I'm just like, well, how brainwashed have we become as a society that you were like so ignorantly passionate about something that you have no clue about?
Yeah.
Like I pity that person, but then it just kind of makes you realize that like it worked. The whole consumerism, like brainwashing of our country has been successful. Like you did a good job, sociology experiment. Like it worked. And so many people bought into it.
So what do you think, what's that look like as that all unravels?
Gosh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I feel like I said, what you show gives me hope because I feel like a lot of kids or young people my age or a little bit older are kind of relating to what you are posting. Like, I think we all are kind of realizing, and that gives me hope that we can turn shit around. But I'd like to know your thoughts on how does it unravel?
We need to talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's one thing to see it and be like, oh, I agree about it. But then like, yeah, actively, what are we doing to combat it or educate people on it or things of that nature? How it ends, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder that myself.
Well, it's very interesting to me how, so like the raw milk deal, somebody we know just posted yesterday. So they grew up on a traditional dairy in Southeast Iowa and they're leaving and they're starting a raw milk dairy of their own. And their family is going to keep the dairy that they've got, which is a commercial dairy.
Oh, wow.
And
The market's that big, huh?
Well,
For raw milk?
they think that they think, well, they want to live simpler and they want to get out, of course, of the rat race of running a commercial dairy.
I was going to say, they want to sleep. So
Yeah.
they want to have a life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. But part of the way they're going to subsidize that life is doing raw milk. But like that is an example because the family, the parents, and I don't know if there's any siblings that are doing that, but they're going to keep doing it. But you have this voice that is like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my own deal. But I think that's happening all over the country. And I see deals like that, and it's going to be really curious to watch how that goes. And the direct-to-consumer thing is the exact same thing. You have had nothing but consolidation in the grocery business, in the food business, in the produce business.
Meat business.
Consolidate. And now then you have these companies that have no rapport with their customers, and their customers, they don't even have to do anything. Like there doesn't have to be a recall or something that comes out that they're doing wrong, and yet they've still lost the trust. They just assume, if you interview these people, they just assume that they're not doing things well. And so as a result, these small producers And these direct-to-consumer, that's what people want because they want to get back to accountability because they don't feel like there's any accountability.
Absolutely.
And I think I don't know how long it's going to take and I don't know what it looks like, but I feel like you're just seeing that
everywhere,
all over in different parts of society. And even in business, the rise, technology is, I think, like a double-edged sword for really large businesses because what is happening today is you have really big businesses that are being upended by startups because the cost of all of the technology to do all the things they need to do is a fraction of what it was when that business was built. And so you've got people that can take whatever somebody's doing currently and do it better and do it much cheaply with fewer people. And these big companies, they're in full-blown panic because they're being eaten by the monster that they invented, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's pushback everywhere. And I just side note of all of it. I think one great thing about social media, outside of all the negatives that there are on social media of just over consuming it and what it's done to young people and young girls and stuff like that. But that social media has kind of backfired in that way to the establishment, I think, because without it, we would never, I think it's made people more aware than ever before. So
I would agree with that. I think it's good for people like us.
Yeah.
Because we can speak out about things and we can share things with the world that formerly we weren't. And if you didn't have a platform, no one was listening. But now that you do, you can talk about things and more people come to light in certain things. And I feel like I hate the word influencer. I remember we've talked about this before.
It too.
It's just such an icky word. But in terms of people coming to you and asking questions or changing minds or something, we are at a meeting this past weekend at Riverside, and one of our friends, he was pointing at me, he's like, check out the shoes my brother bought, and they were barefoot shoes. It's just woohoo, influence, we're making progress. But because some influencers out there are becoming more credible than the establishments, that's what should be really concerning. If you were trusting individuals that you don't even know that live 500 miles away from you more than you're entrusting these establishments, they're in trouble for sure.
And I think what's screwed these brands is now every brand out there has to establish trust with the consumer through social media content.
Yes.
What's Tyson going to post?
Right.
What's Kraft mac and cheese going to post? Them putting artificial cheddar cheese in a pouch at the factory and sending it to you? They have nothing because they can't show you anything.
They have it's cute marketing.
Yeah.
Of TV
and we're all like, great, that's
Yeah.
cool. We love your graphics, but we want to see some shit.
Yeah.
And they don't show you shit. So, then we hear all the negative side effects of the shit that you give us. And we're like, well, yeah, we don't like you. We don't want you. We don't eat your shit anymore.
Yeah.
Did you see the guy that did the supersized documentary years ago? Did you see he passed away?
He died.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was really good for McDonald's marketing.
Yeah, you're right. Right. I know.
I remember watching that in middle school. We had to watch that in health class, and
I watched the same thing. It was gross.
It was awful. I don't know if it's still on Netflix or where you could go.
He made a second one too.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. So he did it twice, I think. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
He
and wasn't
really
the deal
hated
on
himself.
that if he went in order and they asked him if he wanted to supersize it, he had to take it.
Yeah.
He had to let.
Yeah, and I heard, and I read some comments of his passing, and it was some McDonald's advocate.
Troll.
No, some advocate that loves going to McDonald's was like, he was an alcoholic most of his life, so that's probably why.
He probably ran in his family.
Okay, dude,
Yeah.
not the 30 days of just meal after meal of just shit food. Maybe
Just
I don't
bad
know.
genetics.
Yeah, whatever. But what are your thoughts on sunscreen? Because I'm kind of curious. I want to know. Since we brought it up.
It's honestly a crock of shit.
Okay.
Start looking into it. When it started getting implemented in society and the ingredients that they started with in sunscreen and then skin cancer, it's a direct correlation. There is nothing if, and, or but about it. But then there's also, you have to take into the component of what was also happening during that time. Consumerism, seed oils, all the things that you take in your body, and it essentially allows it creates a issue for your skin to do its job as a barrier. So like certain food products affect your skin and your cells and your skin cells that don't allow it to protect you like it needs to. Same with certain practices like wearing sunglasses.
Vitamin D.
Yeah, it needs to enter your eyes. It lets your eyes know like, hey, it's time to like prepare your shield better, and that way we won't get burnt. I really don't get burnt anymore. I'll get like a little pink on my nose and maybe my shoulders here and there, like one time at the beginning of the summer. But I've definitely noticed also when I'm not drinking alcohol and I'm outside, don't get near as burnt either.
So, damn it. Yeah, you're screwed. So for me, I burn. I don't tan worth a crap. When I put sunscreen on, I'm good.
Yeah.
But what is it the seed oils most likely that do it? Like, so you don't burn anymore. Why? Because you've cut out.
I was also on birth control for several years.
Okay.
That's another
You
component
probably
as
should
well.
give that up too.
Yeah.
And think about how many prescription medications say like avoid the sun or whatever. And it's like, well, then what is the active ingredient in this prescription that is causing your skin to not function like it should? Like, why aren't we asking that question?
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a great bit, and I want to say it's George Carlin, but I don't think it is, of a guy, and a bit in his stand up is he just talks about a drug, and he just starts doing the side effects. And he just keeps going, and he keeps going, and then he's like, and if blood starts to shoot out of your eyes, please discontinue use. If you're possible heart stoppage is possible. If your heart stops, please go to the ER.
If you're dead, just please stop.
It's just some random drug. But I don't ever watch network television. But we were at Trisha's Trisha's dad's place, I think is where I saw this, and he had on maybe it was CNN or Fox News or whatever. And every commercial is for a drug because their audience is older, they're of the age. And every one of those drugs, holy Mother Mary, the side effects, you're just like, yeah,
I want to be miserable. I should take this.
Yeah, I think I'll take my chances with.
Yeah.
Or it's like restless leg syndrome. Take a pill for restless leg syndrome, and then it gives you the side effects of the drug. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'll just stick with tingly toes. I don't think I need all that shit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But that's the world we live in. Like these capitalism mixed with medicine and pharmaceuticals equals
COVID vaccines.
Well, right. Looking, yeah, it does 100%. But it's like they're looking for, it's like, your feet, do your feet twitch?
Yeah.
We should come up with a drug for that. It's just crazy.
Well, it's the same thing with like anxiety anymore. Our generation is addicted to anti-anxiety
or
drugs. And I'm
depression.
Like, if you're not anxious at some points in your life, you're probably not living a very cool life. Like a cool life will produce moments of anxiety. If you're doing anything worth doing, there will be times that you will feel anxious. It is called being a human being. Quit prescribing drugs to people for normal human feelings. Like that one just pisses me off.
I agree. I think like the other thing I think people always are like they get caught up on is like I just want to be happy all the time. I'm going to be happy all the time. It's a destination I want to get to. Like, what do you want out of life? I just want to be happy, which is a great thing to say, right? I love it. But like your life, you're going to go through all different kinds of emotions. And like happiness is never a destination. It's a feeling. You feel it in some instances, you don't. Anxiety, you feel anxious sometimes, but anxious might be a good thing for what you need to get done. Stress, I hate stress, but stress is a good thing. Makes your ass do shit to get stuff done that you need to get done. And it's not like we always put like negative connotations on emotions, certain emotions, and positive on other emotions. And it's like sometimes negative emotions might be what's best for you at the moment. And it's like you might need to feel those things to like get you out of the rut that you're in.
And ultimately, I feel like the pursuit of happiness never actually leads to happiness.
No.
It's one of the like, what's the word? I'm having a girl brain fart. Where it's like the opposite of what you think. Like you're trying to pursue happiness and you will never actually
You hyper focus on happiness and you never get it.
Well, it always comes at the expense of something.
Yeah.
Like if okay, something makes me happy, but it hurts my partner or it hurts my long-term end goal that I really want. Like, is happiness really the piece of chocolate cake in front of you? Or is it like the ability to be hanging out with your grandkids when you're 85 years old and you're still in good shape? You know what I mean? Like the whole happiness thing, it's such a, I can't think of the word. What does that mean when it's like,
You're asking two dumb farmers too, so our farmer brain can't think of it either.
like, I'm having girl brain hard right now, but it's like the opposite. You're pursuing the wrong thing to gain it. And I think ultimately what most people are looking for, they think is happiness, but I really think it's just peace. I think having peace is what we really want.
I think purpose and fulfillment is what my two things are. Like if I am purpose driven and I do what I want, what I set out to do, I will be fulfilled. You know what I mean? And so like, I'm going to feel anger. I'm going to feel frustration. I'm going to feel stress. I'm going to feel sadness along that journey. But hopefully when I get to my deathbed or I'm sitting in that nursing home, I hope we figure out a better way to take care of old people than nursing homes by then. But when I get there, I hope that I feel fulfilled because I went after my purpose.
Yeah.
You know? I like
but to have
shit.
a purpose and feel like you're chasing it, that's so many people don't even have that and they wonder why they're not happy.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of weird. We went on a weird tangent there. Not weird, but like that's just something that in society that in culture, people just like, I think they hyper focus on it.
I think it's worth talking about. Though.
It is,
Sometimes
it is
I feel
worth
like we have to apologize for talking about things that matter. And that's something that our generation needs to get out of here. Like if it's important and it's real and it matters, don't apologize for talking about it. We don't always have to talk about the NFL. We don't always have to talk about the stock market. We don't always have to talk about those things. Like talking about human beings and what matters and what we're going to look back in 50 years from now and say, man, I wish I would have done this. Talk about those things and don't apologize for them because it's what matters.
Now, if you two are going to start talking about feelings, I got to leave.
You don't have any?
Torque's just, he starts to get quiet with the feelings talk.
Okay, we'll have a whiskey later.
He's bullshit. He's bullshit.
It's that generation, though. Yeah. That was totally like conditioned in your generation.
Well, your dad was a World War II vet, so that didn't help your case.
Dude, that generation, though, they saw so much shit.
Yeah. I know, and then our generation is bitching about anxiety.
I think it's so funny how so many people, and I keep ratting on our generation. I guess it's really not just our generation, but so many people just talk about like all the demons they battle and things like that.
It's victim mentality.
Your grandfather didn't almost carry on your family line because he almost died on a beach. It's not demons you're fighting. You were just dealing with the consequences of making bad decisions in your life. That's what it is. Yeah. Stop victimizing things that don't deserve to be victimized.
Have you seen that video of that trend of this woman's voice on TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever? And it's like, I'm just not feeling good today. And this woman asks her all these questions. She's like, did you get enough water today? No. Did you get enough sleep today? No. Did you meet people? No. Yeah. Did you talk to people? No. Did you exercise? No.
Did you go outside?
Did you go outside? Exactly. No. I wonder why. And it's like,
it's true, though.
It's like, do people sit there critically and ask themselves, okay, why do I feel like shit?
Yeah.
Well, what have I done today? Or what have I done the last week to make me feel like shit or make me feel like my life sucks? You can probably go down the list and be like, okay, well, probably was sitting inside for too long. Probably, my average screen time today was 8 hours. I should probably go do something with my life.
I'm working a 9 to 5. It's pointless that they don't value me and I barely make enough for my family. And it's I'd probably be stressed too.
Yeah. So I don't know. I say the same thing like grandpa. It's like, I'm sure grandpa was feeling a little bit of anxiety sitting up in a fighter plane, shooting at people. But that was probably good. He was feeling that anxiety or that stress, So probably wasn't super happy, but it was probably good he wasn't feeling happy up there.
But he was, that whole generation was every problem that I ever had as a kid. And I would say that he mellowed some. I was the youngest. But every problem that I ever had, he would say to me, well, can you do anything about it? So if a girl didn't talk to me or this happened or that happened, whatever it was, and I was moping around and he was like, well, can you do something about it? And I'd be like, no. He goes, well, quit crying about it. We got work to do. Come on. I mean, that was how it always was. And I don't remember what the issue was, but we had a family dinner. One of my brothers or both my brothers were back, and some like bombshell. Somebody was either getting divorced or somebody was whatever it was, and it all came out at dinner. And everybody went silent. And I look at my dad, and he's cutting a pork chop or cutting a piece of meat, and he picks it up, and he takes a bite, and he goes, boy, that sure is good pork loin. Because he was not going to touch it. It was going to be about feelings. And in his mind, he was like, well, let's see. Can I do anything about it?
Yeah.
Nope. I'm not going to touch it.
Not my
this
pig,
is good
not
pork
my
loin.
farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that's an inside joke now
in our family.
That's a good piece of pork.
Yeah, that's good pork loin.
If there's a text message that goes around and somebody's going through shit, one of my brothers will go, that's good pork loin.
Yeah.
I like that. That is funny.
Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of just going down this rabbit hole. So from your experience of just like kind of having this awakening, or like not awakening, but just like
Renaissance.
You've learned some things.
you've learned some shit by like kind of going against the status quo. Like, what are some things that people you believe in your experience that you've tried? What are some things that people can do in their lives that have the best impact for their health or just how they feel every day that they can implement like today or tomorrow if they're listening, that like you've seen?
I feel like so often people go towards like supplements and things that are sexy as to like, oh, if I want to feel better and I want to look better and all the things. It's like, honestly, run in the opposite direction and you're probably going to be okay. Like simple things like getting outside and being in the sun for an hour a day, getting sunlight to actually go through your eyeballs. That's huge. Eating real foods, right? Like not shopping in the middle of the grocery store, but on the outside, having a relationship with your local farmer or the locker, going to the farmer's market, just real food. If it's a single ingredient, eat more of that. Like so many people want to say carnivore or keto or whatever. I'm very much so like I eat a lot of meat, I eat a lot of protein, but I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about, is this milk one ingredient? Is this egg one ingredient? This raw goat cheese that I'm eating, it's just raw goat cheese. Like there's not 17 other ingredients on the package. Simple things like that just make a huge difference. And I think because it's not branded and there's no company that's selling it to you and making it look really sexy, people don't think it'll work. And it's just like, do it for a month, then get back with me. And it's just simple things, right? Getting enough sleep at night. Like we don't sleep enough in this country and we wonder why we're stressed and we wonder why we're anxious and depressed. It's like, when did you sleep good? Like you're running around like a crazy person with this big schedule of things that you don't even care about. And you wonder why you're not feeling good. Like, are you sleeping? What are you eating? Simple things like that.
Exercise?
Honestly. Yes.
Big
on
exercise.
Lifting. Yep.
Lifting.
I know you can't really tell, but like, I do lift. I swear to goodness.
Yeah.
I'm really into kettlebells. That's been my new thing. Like,
cool.
I started following a lot. I kind of fell more into like the mobility world and stuff. And kettlebells are just kind of a top-notch tool to like have in your back pocket when it comes to lifting. They're just so diverse. You can bring them with you anywhere. Like you can travel with them. If you don't, have a weight room or an area where you can do it at home, kettlebells you can bring anywhere, right? And they're not loud and they're not going to cause an issue if you're in an apartment and you're dropping weights. Like they're such a versatile tool. I've really been getting into kettlebells. And I love walking too.
What about sauna cold plunge? You do that, don't you? I've seen.
I'm not against cold plunges. I do them on occasion, but I don't think they are necessarily something that you need to be doing all the time. I think there is a happy medium with them, and it's just such a clickbaity thing right now on social media.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, it's a cure-all. Just do more cold plunges. And I'm like, what does cold plunges do to your body? What is happening inside the body?
Yellow
when you do
fat.
them?
Yellow
What?
fat, isn't it? Yellow fat? What's it called?
Well, yeah, people
Brown
say
fat.
it. Brown fat.
Brown fat.
Brown fat.
If your fat's yellow, you got a different problem.
But right, like what is actually happening biologically in the body is what people should be looking at to like if this is something you should do. From a female, I'm very much so coming from a standpoint of like men and women are different, right? We know this, but like how things affect a woman's body because our hormones are significantly different than you guys's takes into account, right? If a guy can manage to do something and cold plunges affect his body and the outcome is XYZ, fantastic. But show me the study where there was women involved. Like most of the time, the scientific studies are men. It's like a 85% plus of these outcomes that you hear, scientific Joe Rogan talks about, and they're talking about this and that. Well, it was men in the studies. So when women do something, sure, we may benefit from some of those outcomes, but also what else is happening inside of our bodies. So I do like cold plunges for like recovery. And I think it's okay for women to do it during certain phases of their cycle. Not if they're trying to get pregnant, then that's like a whole nother conversation. But I do love infrared saunas. I am a big advocate for saunas.
Oh, I see. I like her.
I know. I would love to get a sauna.
You got to get the infrared though, the light.
So what are the benefits that you've seen from saunas?
It's significantly cleared up my skin. Simply because like detox pathways through the body, right? We're consuming so much crap in today's society, microplastics, toxins, chemicals, all the bad stuff that's somewhat unavoidable if you're trying to not be an Amish Mennonite individual or like live on the grid. But then you're going to consume those. Your body has systems in place to get rid of those, right? Your two big detoxing is sweating and shitting things out. So like it's got to get out somehow. By sitting in a sauna, you're just speeding up that process and you're just allowing it to be a little bit more forceful. I'm not someone that sweats a ton per se. So like for me, a sauna really helps kickstart that detox pathway. So I just noticed better things in terms of like sleep, more energy, better recovery. My skin cleared up a lot. But my original intention when I started sitting in a sauna was because I was trying to help with my hormones, because girls that get off birth control, they're basically super estrogen bound up because that's what they're taking. When they're taking a pill, they're taking fake estrogen. And it's just like getting trapped in your body. So like anything you can do to sweat a bunch is great for you. So that was like my original intention, was just like, let me just go sweat and sweat and sweat and see if we can detox this and speed up this process. And it like 100% works. So I'm a big fan.
Hey, we've been thinking about it, like, you know, this whole cold plunge sauna thing. Like
Sawyer wants a cold plunge bad.
My thing is, if we ever make money someday, I want to invest in my health. You know, I want to have, you know, all the shit that we could do accessible to us so we could take care of ourselves. Cause I don't want to be taking care of wiping your ass at 80. I want you to wipe your own ass at 80.
Just being honest.
So yeah.
You gotta appreciate him for that.
So,
put it in the basement here.
yeah,
Come on.
right. I know. We got to think of a better way about the whole nursing home thing, but
He's just going to get me a pair of Apple VR goggles.
yeah.
And tell me
and
that
it'll be
I'm
like
wherever.
you touring a hog barn. It'll be like, see, we're just back home, Dad.
I'm just going to give you the Biden treatment.
Yeah,
Here you go,
don't
Dad.
Give me that.
Yep. Yep.
No, I could see that. Father, son, like cold plunging and sauning.
Yeah.
I think that needs to happen.
Yeah. We could do a podcast
What
from the
about
cold
grounding?
plunge. Yeah,
about
I was going to
what
ask
now?
you that.
Grounding.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
talking about shoes. I actually saw your story about shoes and how, and it's so funny because I have those like Nike gym shoes that have the balls of air in them. Like it's not like a flat shoe. It's like just probably the worst stable shoe you could possibly wear for your feet. And I watched your story and I was like, I probably have
Fantastic.
the worst shoes that she's talking about right now. But yeah, so what's the deal with that? Like what's
barefoot shoes.
yeah,
grounding.
yeah, that whole thing.
Well, I mean, look at your boots. They're not even in the shape of like a foot. Like
Yeah.
your foot is like wider at the top and then it narrows and then then it's your heel. Like we're literally wearing shoes that aren't in the shape of our feet and it's causing issues. Everything from the gait of how you walk to your lower back to your posture. And there's just a lot of things that are out there that prove that like conventional shoes really aren't the best for us, but yet that's what everyone wears and we don't even question it. So I started just kind of delving into that world, and I go barefoot a lot. Like I was that kid that just grew up doing the like gravel walk, you know, across the yard and been like, oh, I'll build calluses in the summer, it'll be fine. But yeah, it's just for like overall foot health. And then grounding is excellent for you if you can just like be outside and actually stand on the earth and not have some barrier between your foot and the ground. Because the world has electromagnetivity to it, right? We are electromagnetic beings. I know people that are super electromagnetic. They can actually like turn off street signs when they walk by them. Like they have a crazy amount of charge in them. So there's just like health benefits to that as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you sit, like, when you think about it and you reflect, it's like, I don't even know when's the last time my foot has touched grass barefoot.
This morning for me.
Well, hey, there you go. Are you
do?
grounded, Torque?
Yeah. So I try to do it. I don't do it good in the wintertime, but in the summer, I try to get up in the morning, get my coffee, go outside barefooted. Perfect morning for me, get my coffee, go outside. as the sun's coming up and stand in the yard and get
your
the best sunlight is
vitamin D
Right.
for
that first sunlight.
I can't
See,
tell if
he's
he's
bougie.
like joshing me right
No,
now.
he's
or
serious
being
as shit.
serious.
I learned that on some podcast.
Huberman, probably.
Yeah, it was Huberman.
Make sure you take your electrolytes before your coffee. That's important.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask you about this. Salt water and
You were
water.
doing great, but it could be
Oh,
a
I
first.
tried doing the salt last year. I tried doing the salt water.
the salt water with water. Is that legit? Like that's
like Celtic salt
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
sea
Yeah.
salt. Yeah. Because like normal table salt is benidized and it
Yeah.
just the actual molecule of what it is kind of garbage. So get good salt. But
I
yeah,
was
just
using
sprinkle
Himalayan
a little
salt,
bit.
and then everybody told me it had lead in it, a bunch of stuff.
I
from
told you to get
Pakistan.
Celtic. I got the bag of
Yeah.
Celtic salt.
I wouldn't do
I
the
didn't have
Himalayan
that.
either.
But okay, if you eat overly processed foods though, you should probably like chill on the salt then, right? Like
Yeah, if you're eating at McDonald's all the time.
Yeah.
Casey's Pizza,
You
probably a little bit.
well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
but sodium is not
unfortunately.
the enemy.
Yeah.
That's another lie.
What
that
they wanna
we've
tell
been
you.
fed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hell, I think that was a good yeah, I think that was great. I think I love
you
it
need
because
to
I
ask-
think
I think you need to
I love
ask
your
her-
morning routine, by the
Yeah.
way. I love it. Can we do a reel of that? I want to
I
watch
don't
some
think
morning
anybody wants to
routine.
see that.
That
Although,
would be
come to think
funny.
of it, really, I am lucky in the fact that I keep my hair short enough that I pretty much look the same at 4 a.m. as I do right now. So
Yeah.
other than my not being able to open my eyes, maybe, but yeah, I try. Well, you know what? If I'm going to do anything good, it's got to be in the morning because as soon as I either open email or go outside, all of my plans go to hell in a handbasket.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's
well, you
like,
got to know about Torque is he's a squirrel. So one project may get started, won't get finished, and he goes starts another one. Or
So-
he does what he feels like he wants to do.
So who balances that out then? Are you the one that like helps
Nobody.
ground them and go, hey?
I try my best. I try my best because I do a little bit better job. I'm like, Dad, you got to sit down and do this. Or I'll just do it.
Trisha, this is
But the women in our lives, for
This is
sure.
a constant conversation. In fact, this conversation happened literally today. I grew up with my dad being the guy that I think he always had it in his mind that he was short on time because I came along late in life and he actually started farming late in life because after the war he did a bunch of other stuff and then came home and started farming later.
Okay.
And so we were always in this like, there was just always so much stuff to do and we all worked. All three of the boys worked. And then when I got out of high school, I was his shadow. I grew up riding on the fender. And what are you going to do? Well, you're going to raise pigs just like your dad. So I was going to raise pigs just like my dad and did that. And then when the market changed and all that happened and I had to go get a job off farm because we quit farrowing. So then we were still trying to farm and work off farm. So I've never had like one job ever. Mm-hmm. And then when I was doing a job off the farm and we decided we were going to start a family and redo a house, well, why would you hire somebody to do that? You know, just do it yourself.
Yeah, do it while you have
you
a
got all this
baby.
time.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that I have just conditioned myself over 53 years
Run on chaos.
to just kind of run on chaos. And the problem is that everybody else in my life looks at it and they see chaos. And I look at it and it's like, it's
This is
fine.
just life.
And so when I say, like, if I want to we should do a segment about bad epitaphs, like what you have on your tombstone, like bad possible epitaphs for dad. So the most glaringly obvious quote to be on my tombstone would be, "It'll be all right." Because whenever stuff's just crazy, and
That's a
so
good
my
fork line.
wife, she does not do well with chaos. She likes order. She likes order, and she likes there to be a plan, and she likes to make lists, and she likes to check things off.
And most people
my
marry each
lists, I make a list, and then the list just gets longer and longer and longer. And then every once in a while, I will double back and check. Like, there's projects that only have one step left, but it might take It might take a year before you get back to that. So literally, like the lights above the bar, I told Sawyer, I said, I did that, 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, except
great.
the cord to the lights has been hanging straight down and plugged into an extension cord plugged into the wall because I didn't run the wire down and run it and wire it into an outlet. And so this morning, after a month, I said, "Oh yeah,
Joy's coming. We gotta get that.
I gotta
shit
get that done." So I came over there and did that. So I checked something off the list.
Heck
But
yeah.
yeah, all that to say.
Well, I was gonna say, Mom gets pissed when you say it's gonna be all right
Oh yeah, she does get pissed. But
because
But
she's
you've
like,
never been
"Torque,
wrong.
shut up."
because she has that need for security. So the easiest way I can give her some security is tell her that it's going to be okay, and I truly mean it.
But
the
you've
other
said
thing
it so
is-
many times over the years that it's
It's kind of lost.
Losing its face value.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Will it? But it's up until this point, it's all been all right. So
Right.
you're
Yeah.
technically not wrong.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, you're a pure optimist. I mean, that's the end of the day. Kind of the same way, a little bit. Okay, I want to get a woman's perspective because we're diverse on this podcast. We try to get all kinds of walks of lives, but it's hard to get people on into the barn in Southeast Iowa. But we've only had one other woman come on the podcast, so I want to get your opinion on it. All women are welcome, by the way. Thoughts on weak men in today's world. What do men need to do from a women's perspective to become men again?
Desirable.
Men again.
Oh,
In all
man.
caps.
Yeah, there could be we could talk about that for days, couldn't we?
Well, we got time.
There's like an epidemic.
There is.
men.
There's a lot of statistics out
And-
there that are kind of worrisome.
It's almost pathetic. Yeah, I fully didn't grasp how bad it was until I got off birth control, and then I was like, oh, I see what's going on here. Like, we are surrounded by weak men, and I think that was the point. Like, if you can make men weak in society and tell them that true healthy masculinity is wrong and make them be weak, it ruins the family. It ruins marriage. It ruins leaders in jobs. It ruins leaders in communities. It essentially is like the downfall of society, right? If you can destroy the man and make him as weak as possible, it the butterfly effect that it has is phenomenal. Like it's very
Scary.
it's very scary. Yeah. I think more often women just want someone that's respectful and strong, right? We don't want a tyrant. We don't need that. We already have those in the Oval Office, but we need someone that is strong and kind of like what you think your wife wants, secure, right? We want someone to be resilient and someone that takes control of a situation, but isn't a tyrant. I think I kind of have the idea of lead me or get the fuck out of my way. And so many women have reverted to that way of I'll figure it out myself, strong, independent women, right? There's that whole movement, but it's kind of because we're having a hard time finding strong men. I don't think it's a healthy movement by any degree of we don't need guys or anything. It's literally been a survival tactic because so many women have had bad experiences
Right.
with weak men that they just
When they
hate
can't.
on males, and it's not the male population. We need strong men because every girl that's been in a relationship with a weak man that is insecure and just has his own sets of issues, she will never forget that. And then whenever you are in a relationship with a strong, secure man that's a leader and is truly nurturing in ways that men should be, it's like they're not even the same species. It's completely different.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's all great stuff. I think I'm trying to digest all what you just said. I think on the extreme, what you have is there's some women out there that take it to the extreme and say, well, all men are just bad.
Right.
And it's a feminist movement. We don't need men, whatever, right? Because they might have had a bad experience. And it's like everything on social media. It gets polarized,
Oh, yeah.
big time. But I think you're right. I don't know why right now there's just this, men just aren't getting out. What I'm just observing in the stats that I've read is they're just not getting out and flying, flying out of the nest and getting their life started right. They're just not doing it. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because everything's just so easy and it's so easy to just DoorDash your shit Don't go get your own food. Sit and be a consumer. You know,
the other part of it
don't
is,
have to go to talk ladies because they watch too much Pornhub. I mean, being real, like, is that what it is? Is just over consuming and just doing everything that's so easy that they don't.
You also have a whole generation of parents. I mean, you boil it down, you really boil it down, and it is as simple as that great quote that I don't know who the hell made that quote, but we've all heard it, that hard times make hard men make soft times make soft men, and soft men make hard times. Did I do that right?
You did. I mean, actually, you nailed it.
So you have a generation of parents that grew up under tyrants. So my dad, I was at a men's group last night, and there was a kid there. There was a young man there. I was the oldest person there. So there was a young man there, and somebody was talking about that their dad had passed, and he said this guy was glad that he was able to have a conversation with his dad that he had never had, and they had some closure before his dad passed away. And this man said that he was 11 years old when his dad passed away, and that they didn't have that, and he has a lot of bad feelings about it because his dad was not a very upstanding guy. And I made the comment, if my dad would have died when I was 16, I wouldn't have anything good to say because we were like this. But I was blessed in the fact they lived to be almost 100 years old, and we farmed together for years and years, and I got to know him a whole different way, and that was amazing. But, I did not want to raise my children the way that I was raised, as far as no carrot, just the stick. It was all stick all the time. But so as a result of that, you have families and parents that have gone
away from how they grew up.
They took, instead of taking the best of that and tweaking, not being so heavy on the discipline side of it, they went to where they're just complete buffers. Like they want to buffer their children from any bad experience. And everything is a chance to build them up, and they don't want them to fail. And then if they do fail, they downplay that failure or blame that failure on something other than the child. And so you have a whole group of young men that have grown up with very little responsibility and have been praised at every
participation tropes.
And then they get to the real world, and they're like, this is...
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shit working against it. I mean, you got the school system, you got participation trophies in sports, you got parents, you got big tech, and just how everything is so easy to get, and you don't have to really work for anything anymore. Yep. Everybody's trying to look for the easy thing, that it's kind of all working against it. I don't know. It's just curious. I just think about that, weak men, and I try to take inventory on what, how you can become a better man, right? And I think that conversation, and more men need to have those conversations with themselves, because if you do look at the statistics, it is a little concerning. It is. Yeah. I mean,
but we haven't had the hardship that certain generations have. Yeah. And until we have that, I think that will be the character building that we probably need as a generation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. You got to hit rock bottom too.
But at the same time, it's kind of like the girls' fault for some of the weak men in our generation, because we're allowing it. If women would just put their foot down and stop dating losers, I'm talking to a lot of girls out there, just quit dating the losers. Quit giving them the things that they want, because they're losers. 100 years ago, those were the ones that exited the gene pool. Their genealogy stopped right there.
Family tree.
No one wanted to be with him. Yeah. Have you ever heard of this last name? No wonder why. He was a loser. He never found a mate, didn't procreate. So women need to have some standards and realize that no, this is what I want, and this is what I'm not willing to give up, and then only hold that to the highest regard, because if we keep dating losers and procreating with them, of course we're going to have an issue with weak men. Let's get rid of them.
It is literally the introduction to the movie Idiocracy.
I have not seen this movie.
Oh, you've
Watch
told
the
this
first 5 minutes
so many times.
It's called Idiocracy.
It's called Idiocracy, and it has Luke Wilson's brother, the dark-haired one, not the blonde-haired one. Is Luke the blonde?
I didn't even know he had a brother.
Yeah.
Why am I blanking on who Luke Wilson is?
He's the blonde guy that. Oh yeah, he like talks like that.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're thinking Owen Wilson.
Owen. Yeah, that's
So it is Luke Wilson.
I knew from
His brother's name is Luke.
that's our bad.
Gotcha. I was like, yeah. I was like, I know exactly who you're talking about. Okay,
Anyway,
Owen Wilson.
look it up and watch the first 5 minutes because it goes through it talks about what a horrible, it's like in the future and there's no smart people left.
Oh.
It's literally idiocracy because the whole world is run by idiots. And the reason is because they do this intro and how the smart people, the really, really smart people get so caught up on their own careers and their own past that one, they don't have children, or if they have children, they only have one. And then over here, they have the idiots that have a wife and 4 girlfriends, and they end up with, it shows their family tree, and it's just huge. And then they have these people with really high IQs. They have one child, and then that child never finds anybody to marry. And it's obviously, it's done, it's hilarious, but it is so like, some days I feel like...
That's what's happening.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of like prophecy. You're like,
Yeah.
oh boy, this is bad. So anyway.
Yeah. So like as a whole, like the dating pool, what do you think about like dating pool for our age group, young kids or young people? I feel like hookup culture is terrible for it. And like just from what my friends have talked to me about, talk to them like, hey, you got a girlfriend? Yeah. Hey, how's it going? These guys, they're not weak men. Okay. The guys that I'm talking to, good friends with, like they got shit going for them. And it's like, on one side, I think there's a lot of weak men, but on the other side, like I think hookup culture and like loyalty is at an all-time low because like dudes trying to find, or just people coming together that stay loyal together, trust one another, and like want to build a life together, I feel like it's at an all-time low too.
It's like a rare thing.
It's like a rare thing now.
Yeah.
And that's like scary to think about too.
But every time I think about that same thing where it's like, we're all the good men and we're all the good women I can think like, I know so many good people. Like I don't want to discount the awesome people I know. Cause when I think about like, if there's a girl, it's like, oh, there's no good men. I'm just like, dude, I know 10 dudes that are freaking awesome. Like I grew up with these guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where you're searching for these guys, but like, they're not in the bar. Here's their address. Like I know so many good people on both sides of the gender spectrum. So I don't know if it's just like, we're always looking in the wrong place, or I think a lot of us are, or a lot of people in our generation get almost like insecure about the fact that they're not finding someone, and then they change who they are in order to try to attract a person, but then it's the wrong person because you're not being yourself. So like just being an authentic person and sticking to your guns and knowing that like the goofy ass person out there that is meant for you will find you, but you have to be the goofy ass person yourself. Like just be yourself. You'll attract the right person.
Right.
And also I think so many of us want to get together at a young age. I'm listening to this audiobook. I was listening to it on the way here. It's about the core of discovery, like Lewis and Clark. Those guys didn't get married till they were older. Like I think everyone has it in their mind that everyone got married when they were 16 back then. Not Thomas Jefferson. He didn't get married till he was like 39 or something. Like don't like quote me on that. I just listened to it just now. But you know what I mean? There's so many things where it's like, why do we think that we're supposed to find our soulmate by 23? Just because someone else did, or do we have to find our person at 18? No, some people do. Awesome for them. They get to start their life with the love of their life for the rest of their life. That's awesome. But like, if you have to wait till you're, God forbid, 35 to find the right person, at least you found the right person, right? At least you didn't marry the wrong one and have to make a mistake and then find the right person and then leave this trail of destruction behind you. Like just wait for the right person that you're meant to be with. It's worth it. I had a cousin who literally just got married a few years ago. He was 40. Like him and his wife are freaking awesome. They're perfect for each other. Like they are such a cool ass couple. But oh my gosh, it was probably really hard for both of them to get to 40 and be like, man, is my person out there? Like, am I going to find that person? But like neither of them had prior marriages or prior kids or anything because they knew what they wanted and they stuck to their guns.
Yep.
And we just have to have that mentality that like, these are my non-negotiables. This is what I want in a person. And they're out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are.
I think that's pretty solid advice. I think the biggest thing holding people back from or feel pressure is because if they want kids, they feel like they got to have kids in their 20s.
Yeah.
Or there could be
Biological
complications.
clock is ticking.
Yeah, right. That's the biggest thing.
And that's a whole rumor too. I don't believe that. To a point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think both sides, men and women's infertility rates are increasing in this country.
Yep.
But I know a lady who had a kid when she was 49. No complications. Like her doctor was screaming at her because she was having a kid at 49 and she was like, I'm going to do it. And she had a kid at 49 at home and it's super healthy and she's fine. So like, I don't know. Is it another false claim that we believe in?
Yeah.
You're bringing up all the questions today. You're bringing up all the questions.
I like to provoke thought.
Yeah, well, that's
just
good.
Leave people to like.
This has been, I'm just going to be honest, this has been a great episode. This is when I was thinking about having you on, this is exactly how I was thinking this would, like, I was like picturing in my mind. We always talk about farming on here, and I love doing that. But the reason we called it Barn Talk is because we just want to have good ass conversations in a barn. And it doesn't always have to be strictly agriculture, And I love this fucking conversation right now because we're just we're getting into deep shit and talking about it, and I like it.
Yeah, your blood pressure is
no,
charts.
I'm not.
I'm just waiting for Torque to like open up and
Yeah.
start talking about emotions.
Well, you almost got him when he started talking about Grandpa. He was getting there. He's on the fence. I can read you like a book.
He knows you.
Yeah.
Family.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask her.
You go. You go.
In where you're at right now, when you look back. So what? Is there anything that absolutely has not gone the way you thought it would, but is a good thing?
Nothing catastrophic. No trains exploding or anything. I definitely did not see myself going into agriculture. That was kind of just like God.
You majored in
on
it
my
though.
heart. I did, yeah, but I had full intention. So I went to DMAC right after high school because I had a bunch of college credits from high school, and I was like, I'm just gonna get my 2-year, and I had every intention of going out to North Carolina to become a massage therapist.
Okay.
I went, visited the school, went and looked at apartments. I was like, my German Shepherd's coming. Like, we're going to have a good time. Full intention. And I had a heart-to-heart with my sister at the dinner table over her Christmas break. She was at Iowa State at the time. And I just was like, hey, I don't know why, but I just feel really called to go into agriculture. Like, I don't know why, but like, would you be like willing to like take me on campus and show me around? Like, I did not want to go to Iowa State. When we dropped my sister off, I was like, this is too big, too many people. Like, I get the ick, like, not happening. And then I ended up going to Iowa State for ag. So life is just kind of funny like that. And I think sometimes, I don't want to say destiny or fate, but I think when you're really meant to do something,
It finds
everything will funnel to that. And there's really no other way. Like you almost get boxed in where you're like, the only way is forward. I'm just going to go. So I didn't see myself going into ag, and now I'm in love with conservation. And it's just kind of funny, all the people I've met along the way and all the different connections I've made and like the different passions that have grown from it. So that wasn't like an original intention,
Nice.
but no crazy train wrecks.
Good. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've forgotten any. I don't know. I'm one of those people where it's like, if shit goes wrong, I just keep going.
Yep.
Like, the
that's why
explosions are happening in the background, and you're just like, keep on going.
Get to the chopper.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Okay. Not to go from that great subject to
I
just
already know.
terrible subject, but okay, what are your thoughts on the state of our country right now? I asked you before you came on the show. We might get a little political.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
You're cool with it. So I said,
I'm
fuck
fine
it,
with
let's
it.
rip. So state of the country, how do we fix it? I got these topics here. We got the Trump case. We got an open border. Your thoughts on the economy, corruption, term limits, all the above. Like, what are your overall thoughts of just like young person right now in America? What are you feeling? What are your thoughts on just the political landscape of where we're at?
I might like totally take a turn on this.
Okay.
You guys know anything about like prophecy in the book of Revelation in the Bible?
Yep.
So it's a very weird book, right? You're reading it and you're like, what in the
Scares the shit out of you.
Chronicles of Narnia is this? Like, what is going on here? I truly believe that, like, first of all, our country's just going in a terrible direction. We know that. We have just all sorts of messed up. We're celebrating sin. We have a geriatric lizard from outer space in the Oval Office. Like, we just have all sorts of terrible things going on. Climate change is happening. I know that's like a buzz topic word, and people always want to hate on farmers for that. And I'm like, no, we have so many things going on that are affecting the natural rhythms of our ecosystems, and those are going in a poor direction as well. So like a lot of things are going really bad right now in this world. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I think it's going in the wrong direction. But ultimately, from a biblical perspective, if you read the book of Revelation and you look at what's happening in the end times, there is no USA mentioned. Like, some people will argue that, but in my opinion and what I've read and what I've had conversations with my mom, because she's very much so into that topic, is there is no USA. So like, we don't exist at one point. The World Economic Forum is trying to make us a one world government. So like, they want to take over so that there is no USA, there is no patriotism, there is no democracy, all the things that we love and all the things that make the USA.
You will own nothing and you'll be happy.
Exactly. Like, that is what is going to happen. And so many people are completely ignorant to it. So many people, they don't follow the news, which I don't blame them. I really don't try to either. They don't see what's happening. They don't see that these decisions are being made for us from people that we're not even electing. I was just listening to, oh gosh, I don't even know what it was, but it was talking about how they are meeting, the EU and the World Economic Forum and the WHO and yada yada are all trying to make a, they're not calling it a treaty or an accord. They're calling it something to be tricky, but it's essentially saying that, like, if a pandemic were to ever erupt again in the world, that they would be able to make decisions for our country that would, completely affect the entire world. So even if we're electing Kim Reynolds as our governor, and even if we're electing certain politicians in place, none of those people will have any say if there were to be like another COVID. And there's so many things like that that are happening that aren't talked about on the news, right? We're watching funny memes instead. We're watching, Biden shit his pants on live television, whatever it is. Like, we're so distracted.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. You could just dub that, like, dub your voice on her face or her face on your voice. I mean, that's a Sawyerism right there.
I know,
it's true though.
It is
like
1,000% true.
It's the whole Roman circus thing of like, just keep putting on television shows, keep making movies, keep putting things in front of their face, social media included, and then they won't worry about these other things that are
We're like
happening.
ants. They're like, we're peasants.
We're literally selling our freedom to people overseas that we did not elect, that we did not put in power, and they will be making decisions that can affect all of us. And we're just okay with it. Like, it's happening before our eyes, and it's really upsetting. And I do think that we should fight back as Americans, and like, we have freedoms in place where we should be doing something about it. But ultimately, I feel like I just kind of have the peace, and maybe peace is kind of a weird word for it, but I think I just ultimately have the peace that, like, we're not going to make it. Like, if you don't have a biblical perspective about the world, I can see why you would be freaking out and why people would be so concerned. Like, we're going to have a civil war and we're going to have all this stuff. Yeah, probably. But like, in the end, there is no us. There is no USA. So something happens. I don't know what gets us. I don't know if it is just like a one world government. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but we're not going to be here. And I hope we're all in heaven having a good time up there.
Yeah. Right.
But
amen to that.
That is that's an interesting perspective. Go ahead.
But it is. It's different because so many people would be like, well, it's going to be a world war. And yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But like, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. Right.
Because the powers that be will always be the powers that be. And evil reigns pretty freaking hard anymore in this world.
Yep.
Not saying we shouldn't fight back and not say we shouldn't stand up when evil does come confronting us. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's hard for me because I'm a religious person. I'm a Christian, right? And I understand that is coming, or that is going to come at some point. It's just hard for me to think that that's going to happen in my lifetime. You always think
we don't
that's
know if it will.
Right. We don't.
We could be in the nursing home getting our butts wiped.
Right. And then you're like, well, it's all right. It'll take me. Yeah.
Well, my grandkids are having fun at the war. Like, we don't know when it's going to happen.
It's just hard because I feel like I want to fight like that. On this podcast, like our last episode, we talked about Trump's verdict. And I got pretty passionate about it because I was like, we got to stop just getting punched in the fucking face. Like, when are we going to like rise up and like say this enough's enough? Like, fight, you know? It's just hard to like come to terms with, even if you fight, it might not be worth it, you know?
But coming back to the whole weak men thing,
yeah.
What are we going to do? A generation, a society of a bunch of weak men that are being told they can be women and take hormones to quite literally change the biology of who they are to the core. Are we gonna fight? Like, how many have you held a sword? Like, what are you gonna do? Do you do jiu-jitsu? Like, you know what I mean? So many people don't even shoot guns anymore. It's just like, man, like they wanted to make us weak and they did, so that when this opportunity comes at knocking at our door, which it is right now, we won't do anything. What are we gonna do?
Yep. What are your thoughts on that? Wise man.
Well, I think that two things are true at the same time, which is to say that I agree with you 100%. There may not be anything that we can do about it from a long-term perspective. And I totally agree that the world, there are powers at play within the world that have decided that democracy is a nuisance, and they've been fighting that for a long time, basically since the end of World War II. That's been going on, and what they've decided is, rather than kill democracy with the sword, we're going to kill it with bureaucracy, because we have 4 million government employees that are not elected; they are appointed, and they have those jobs for life. And all we keep doing is shuffling the pieces at the top that don't actually move the needle very far. And I'm very hopeful that we are going to have an election that we roll back some of what has happened. But the odds of having that, you need like 12 years. You need like 12 years of conservative politicians to drain the swamp.
I would just say freedom fighters, because you could get a piece of shit conservative just as much as you could.
Well, 100%.
Rhinos exist.
Yeah.
But so I don't see that
happening.
But everything else we've talked about people that are waking up that we can't trust this and we can't trust that, and that want to raise their own food, and they want to know how to change the oil in their car, and they want to know how to butcher a pig, and they're not going to take that pill, or they're going to quit taking that. I would say that, and you said that, we talked about this, I think that they definitely overplayed their hand at COVID, at least in America.
1,000% did.
I don't think that, and that very well may be why their goal would be to get the bureaucracy of the World Economic Forum to where they can take the decision-making away from politicians, because
they already know. We know.
They know they overplayed their hand. And I don't think Americans will buy it again.
I hope
so.
not.
I don't know if there is a...
I believe they won't.
I don't know if there's a renaissance to be had between the time before the jig is up. But I would say I'm more optimistic today than I was maybe a year and a half ago, just because there are more and more people every day that are waking up. I mean, even people like, look at Bill Maher. I don't agree with him with a lot, but that guy, I mean, dyed in the wool, straight, 100% lib. Even he, after COVID, he had an awakening. Now, to what degree, I don't know, but there's a lot of people like that. There are a lot of people, and Biden has overplayed the Democratic Party overplayed their hand with Biden also, because he's so weak and so inept that lifetime Democrats are waking up and being like, and another thing that and we talked about this last week, minorities in this country can identify with Donald Trump.
Way more,
because he has a shared experience with the American judicial system that a lot of minorities in this country have someone in their family or a neighbor they know that they feel like were mistreated, ramrodded, whatever,
By the
treated
system.
unfairly by the system. And now then you have a guy that's running for president that has the same experience. And I know that the political machine did not, they never thought of that. Like they
didn't
literally never
anticipate
thought
that.
of that.
Because they're not,
And they're like, holy shit, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with you. At the end of the day, what's going to happen is going to happen, and none of us are going to change the tide of what.
has already been set by the Lord.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
ultimately, yeah. But I feel like that always just sounds so like, well, you're not going to do anything then. And it's like, no, I'm not going to not do anything.
You're not going to just
But,
roll
like,
over. But
I have an understanding of peace, of like the long-term outcomes, I guess you could say.
Well, that's probably good. That's actually probably really good to have that, because you probably feel less of the
Anxiety,
panic, or
Yeah.
anything.
The
Yeah.
world
Peace
just
is a
feels
good word for that.
Well, I think so many people want control, and they want to have a handle on everything. And it's like, control what you can control, and don't be anxious about what you can't control, because
Yep.
that will just send you in a spiral of just not feeling good, like in your day-to-day life. So like, control what you can control, and then let fate kind of be fate.
I
Okay.
would like to see a Trump boot stomp election, just because I want to see the blood shoot out of all of the major media outlets on election.
Yeah, it would be just
That was so enjoyable to watch when Hillary got beat. I loved it. I
That was
loved it.
good.
I watched those clips for weeks. It was the best. I want to see it again.
I want to know what will happen though, because this fall, I don't think either side will be able to accept the outcome of the other. That's
Oh,
what
I
I'm
agree.
really curious to see. You know what I mean? Because like, one thing I think too, here in the Midwest, we're farmers, we're so docile. Like, we don't really get too overly worked up and want to point a musket at someone. You know, like, we're just like, we like to mind our own business and do our own thing. But like, if you go to the South, oh my gosh, they're still worked up about the last election. Like, they're pissed.
They're still worked out about the war of northern aggression.
Exactly. Like,
I literally ran into a guy on a construction site in like 2008, just walking through there, run into this guy. I go, "Hey, how you doing?" And as he walked past, I didn't understand it at first, but then I like thought about it. He goes, "Whatever, fucking Yankee." And I was not like way in southern Missouri either. And I thought about that for a minute. And then I asked one of the guys that was the owners, I said, is that about par? He's like, oh yeah, there's people down here that still call it the war of northern aggression.
that's hilarious.
So yeah,
Shit.
they do not forget stuff. So
No.
they definitely have not forgotten that.
No, like they're still pretty pissed off about it. Not like we aren't, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
one way or the other, how the outcome of this election goes, I don't think either side will accept it. And
Yeah.
that's where it's like, well, then
What
typically
happens?
happens? Yeah.
The thing that I go back to, and I think about this a lot, is I am incredibly thankful that I don't live on the East Coast or the West Coast or in a very large metropolitan city.
Fuck that.
Because all of these pieces that are in motion, as the fabric of society pulls apart, and the problem is so much of these areas are so dependent upon our social programs, and this idea that we could just print money till the cows come home, at some point you can't. And when that happens, that's what you really got to watch out for, because people that are used to going to the trough and then suddenly there's no trough become desperate like that.
Yeah.
And you can't blame them. They've been trained for generations. And
When you go to the grocery store, there's food in the grocery store.
yeah,
And then when they go in there and there's no food in there,
yeah,
what are they going to
We
do?
do.
yeah. That's
The scary
the
part about it
scariest-
is you got 3 days. Trucks don't show up for 3 days. Shit's going to go south.
Yeah.
Big time.
But here in the Midwest, I think we know how to take care of ourselves.
No, we do,
at least
and that's
enough.
thank goodness we haven't lost that.
Yeah, I'm glad to be where I'm at.
Yeah,
I am too.
Real glad.
I love this state.
Yeah,
think
I do
was
too.
the-
I love Iowans. God.
Like, I tried to fight it so hard growing up because it seemed like everywhere else was cooler than Iowa. You know, Colorado had the mountains, and then California had the beaches, and you're just like, why did I get born in Iowa? And then now, as like a young adult, I'm just like, I'm never leaving. Like,
Yeah.
I love
I'll
this
go
state.
visit, but I'm coming home.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at.
It's
So,
a good place to call
Yeah.
home.
Okay. Well, we're going to get a wrap it up here, but I just want to ask you maybe 1 to 2 more questions. So what's next for you? Like, you look out of joy of all trades in your life, not to get philosophical, but like, what's next for you? What are you thinking?
Oh gosh, like in terms of career or just
I don't know. How about all of it?
honestly, I have like my, goals or what you think you want, like my tentative 5-year, my tentative 10-year. But then things just change really fast where different things come up. Like if you would have told me 5 years ago that I wanted to homeschool my kids someday, I would have been told you absolutely not. Like that's what the public school system is for. And now I'm like, hell no, I'm raising my children someday. They will be under, like I'm raising my own babies. Ain't the system doing it for me. So I don't know, long term, career wise, I don't know. I like conservation and ag. I'm very passionate about it. I like conservation and wildlife too. I think those are just things I'm passionate about. So I see maybe a career and overall purpose going or trending in that direction. But I like doing a lot of different things. So I've always kind of struggled with that of like in the 9-to-5 world, like you're going to do one thing and this is all you're going to do. And I'm like, well, I like 30,000 things. So like, I can't just do one. I'm not built that way. I'm never going to be that way. So to think of like what I'm going to end up doing in 5, 10, 15 years, I'm like, I don't know. Hopefully everything.
Yeah.
You're just gonna run with it.
Yeah, I'm totally gonna run with it, and I'm gonna do it semi fearlessly.
You're going to do it your way.
Yeah, and just see how it goes.
Yep.
So
I
I,
like
don't know.
it.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I like it. Well, we'll follow at Joy of All Trades, everybody. If you got any value from the show and you want to see how that all pans out for Joy of All Trades, Instagram, anywhere else, TikTok,
unfortunately.
TikTok,
Soon to be YouTube.
Yeah,
One of these
and
days.
YouTube, Joy of All Trades. It's all Joy of All Trades on everything.
Yep, joy of all trades.
God damn, you need to trademark it.
I should.
You got
That's what I'll do.
Yep, there you go. Well, I think I got all my words out. Did you get
And
all
we didn't
yours?
run it off into a rant. We had such a peaceful vibe going, and then all of a sudden you were bound to.
Well, I actually am glad I asked that question because that is a really unique perspective that doesn't really get talked about enough.
It is
Don't
a
you
great
think?
perspective.
Like,
and I think that's why
your
it needs to be
opinion
talked
is
about.
not talked about enough, but I think it's a good one. I think it's one that more people should probably hear so that they do feel a little more like at peace that, hey,
I need to market it.
Do their little.
Make it a little more sexy, and then
Yep.
people will actually listen.
that's right. So like they sell supplements.
That's right.
Yep. Okay.
Working.
Well, did you get all your words out?
I always have words, but I think so.
Well, we appreciate it, Joy. Thanks for coming on the show. We really do appreciate it. It was a pleasure. If you guys got any value, follow Joy at Jack of all Joy of all
Her
trades.
name's Joy, not
Joy-
Jack. You just spent
Joy
an
of all
hour, 2
trades.
hours.
We just talked about birth control.
Share the show, leave a review, buy some meat at farmergrade.com, and we'll see you back here next week for another episode.